This video is sponsored by Rocket Money. So, the internet is on fire today, and you've probably noticed. If you've been around the RPG community for the last week, then you've likely heard the insane news that Critical Role have decided to ditch their brand new proprietary tabletop RPG Daggerheart, and instead are going forward with the juggernaut Dungeons and Dragons for their next big campaign 4 that's going to get millions and millions and millions of views. And that decision is crazy, and it has changed everything about the future of role-playing games, and it will have a massive impact on all our future as RPG fans. And as a result, everyone is losing their minds trying to figure out what the hell Critical Role are doing and why they chose Dungeons and Dragons again instead of the game that they made explicitly for themselves. It didn't seem to make any sense at all. That is, until today, because that answer just got exposed as crazy secret leaks and Critical Role insider knowledge have just been revealed. And not only that, but also there is a secret, darker answer as well, one that I find deeply disappointing, sad, and frankly, one that makes me worried about the future of tabletop role-playing games. Our dreams might just have been shattered. So what the hell is going on? Well, this is really important because Daggerheart is the chosen one and did have an incredibly successful launch this year, receiving almost universal praise from critics and YouTubers, and it managed to quickly gather a huge fan base. There is now tons and tons and tons of content and homebrew for the game. There are huge forums dedicated to Daggerheart that have thrived. Daggerheart as a game has honestly, truly succeeded, gathering a large and dedicated fan base that are actively playing it. Daggerheart really has proven itself to be a rival to Dungeons and Dragons. But with the announcement that Campaign 4 with Critical Role is using Dungeons and Dragons again instead of Daggerheart, it seems like that dream may be dead. And Critical Role fans themselves are not happy with this. People are really pissed off. Content creators are shocked at the decision. Daggerheart communities have been inundated with disappointed and angry and vitriolic posts, and a deep, sincere feeling of betrayal and anger has burst out of people like a baby xenomorph. Many have felt let down, especially within the Daggerheart community, where many core Critical Role fans are. And on the face of it, not using Daggerheart, going to Dungeons and Dragons again for their next campaign seems like a terrible marketing decision from Critical Role and Matt Mercer and the entire Darrington Press team. And it flies in the face of what many in the RPG, in the Critical Role, and especially the Daggerheart community have wanted. Now, Critical Role are aware of that. They are aware that people were expecting Daggerheart for their next campaign, so they have responded. Marisha Ray, the creative director, has explained that Dungeons and Dragons was chosen for Campaign 4 because it is the RPG system that, quote, best supports the story that they want to tell, which is a really interesting response because Daggerheart was made by Critical Role themselves. It's made by Darrington Press, their publishing house. So why would they have made a game that is not the best for telling stories in Critical Role, the show? And besides, Daggerheart does feel way more in line with Critical Role's playstyle. Why are they still using Dungeons and Dragons? I don't quite buy their official explanation, and neither do many other people. Well, it turns out now that there is a real answer to this, because specific details have now been leaked and uncovered. There are financial details, internal information from Critical Role have been leaked, and even more, there is a dark, unfortunate reason for Daggerheart being set aside by Critical Role in Campaign 4, and things might be a lot worse than we thought. Almost like the amount of subscriptions that I'm currently signed up for. I didn't even know what subscriptions I had active. Like that guy that brings a pickle to my door every day. I thought he was just being friendly, but no. I'm paying for every pickle. Well, today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is the app that you need to sort all that out and more, because it helps manage your finances by canceling unwanted subscriptions, lowering your bills, helps you make custom budgets, and even grow your savings, all in the one place. Because let's be honest, we have all signed up for free trials and then forgotten about them, meaning that we have ended up with tons of unwanted monthly bills. Well, Rocket Money Money safely and securely identifies your subscriptions and cancels them for you. No need to make customer service calls. And not only that, but it also tracks your bills and lets you know when money is going to leave you. No more hidden pickle fees. Rocket Money has helped its customers save up to $740 a year when you use all of the app's premium features. They've also helped customers save over $500 million in cancelled subscriptions. So take control of your finances, save more and spend less, and join over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/dungeons or click the link in the description below to get started for free. And thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so why did they choose D&D for real then? Well, I've seen a ton of speculation online. Many of the reasons that people have speculated about do make some sense. People have pointed out that the new campaign 4 actually has a ton of new and innovative stuff happening in the campaign. For one, there's a brand new dungeon master coming to the show. Matt Mercer is being replaced by Brennan Lee Mulligan, one of the greatest celebrity dungeon masters in the business, and a guy who seems very comfortable running specifically Dungeons and Dragons. On top of that, the new campaign has a completely different format using multiple tables of different players. There is a massive cast of over a dozen different players in this new campaign, some of them celebrities. So taking that all into account, if you were Critical Role, would you really want to mix up the RPG system that you're using as well? Not to mention that, hopefully, Campaign 4 has been planned for a really long time. So maybe the system, maybe Dungeons and Dragons, was chosen a long time ago, right? Well, maybe not though. Deciding on the RPG that you're actually going to play in your next campaign, that was probably one of the last things decided by Critical Role. Like most RPG games, most of the prep gets done between sessions and after characters have been created rather than before. But whatever, all those sound like great answers is what most people believe. Except they're all wrong, or at least they're not the only answer, because there are two secret reasons why D&D was chosen over Daggerheart, and the first of which was leaked very recently. And this one really shocked me, honestly. You see, Critical Role is, at the end of the day, a business, and we've always known the Critical Role are making quite a substantial amount of money, ever since the Twitch leaks a couple of years back, where it was revealed that between August 2019 and October 2021, Critical Role were the highest paid streamer on the entire Twitch platform, making $9.6 million in that period from advertising revenue alone on the Twitch platform. And I always thought that that was crazy, but hey, I mean, Critical Role, they got a lot of overheads, from extensive cast, crew and rent space, and now they have to pay for Brennan Lee Mulligan's supplies for making American Girl doll shoes. But since then, more details about the underpinning finances of Critical Role have been leaked, specifically by the same guy that leaked the OGL scandal a couple of years back. Friend of the channel, Stephen Glicker of Roll for Combat, recently revealed that a couple of years ago, he approached Critical Role to buy an ad spot on their channel, which at the time, Critical Role were charging him $65,000 for one ad on one episode of their show. Now, bear in mind that Critical Role often include multiple ads in a single episode, so that's like hundreds of thousands of dollars with every single episode that they're making. In fact, Steven estimates in his latest video that each Critical Role season is probably making around $40 to $50 million in advertising. And that's all before merchandising, Amazon, products, deals with Hasbro, Twitch income. So it's clear that there's a lot of money at stake when it comes time to f around with the Critical Role formula. And it seems clear that Critical Role have simply chosen Dungeons and Dragons because they do not want to risk potentially hurting the mothership. At the end of the day, I suspect that for Critical Role, their brand as Critical Role is more important than the success of any single new game system like Daggerheart. And I gotta say, it's not like Critical Role have abandoned Daggerheart. They're still releasing content for the game, from side campaigns to one-off videos like this one. Still, this new campaign was a chance for them to fully sever ties with Hasbro, and they didn't. They're sticking with Dungeons and Dragons, and in fact, this goes even deeper. There is a reason why, because Steven has also leaked that Critical Role actually delayed announcing Campaign 4 because they had been using the threat that they would use Daggerheart as their new campaign system as a negotiating tactic against Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, the owners of Dungeons & Dragons. And for what? Well, so the Critical Role could negotiate a lucrative sponsorship deal with Hasbro directly, allowing them to maintain their financial and business relationship. In other words, Critical Role have done an advertising deal with Hasbro, it seems. They have apparently been paid money, and in return, Critical Role will use Dungeons & Dragons rather than D&D's new competitor, Daggerheart, in their big, massive game that's going to go out to millions and millions and millions of people. And even beyond that, financially, it makes sense for them to continue to use D&D on the show, because using Dungeons & Dragons means more organic chances for Critical Role to make more money. By using D&D, that means they're creating new D&D content, and that means potentially the foundation of new source books for D&D, which they can sell in D&D Beyond. I mean, we had Teldori, Campaign Setting Reborn, Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, Call of the Netherdeep in the past, and future campaigns will likely make their way into new D&D books. A Daggerheart adventure, on the other hand, it just wouldn't translate over in the same way. So Critical Role do directly profit off of the use of D&D as their campaign system of choice, beyond simply any explicit advertising money that they're apparently making from Hasbro. But that's not all. That's not the only reason. I promised you 2 reasons, and there is another. And this one is potentially even more terrifying, because I hate to say this. I really do hate to say this. So you best subscribe to the channel right now before you hit me. Please do that, because I have noticed something about Daggerheart, and I have to say it, and it really sucks to say, but okay, here we go. Critical Role may have dodged a bullet by going forward with Dungeons & Dragons. See, Daggerheart videos online, they're kind of bombing. They're actually dying off right now. It gives me no pleasure to say. This sucks. See, when Daggerheart first came out, there was a ton of videos and YouTube videos all about it. We had reviews, unboxings, first impressions, rage bait. Hey, wait, that was legitimate criticism. People were really engaged with Daggerheart the system. Frankly, I'd never seen such a launch of an RPG before in the modern Dungeons & Dragons dominated ecosystem. I was super excited for fresh content. It really looked like the future was bright. Critical Role even started their very own Age of Umbra Daggerheart campaign on their channel, and it got 1.5 million views to start off with. That was really awesome. Viewers were tuning in for Daggerheart content, and it felt like we were about to enter the age of Daggerheart content on YouTube. We're gonna smash the Dungeons & Dragons monopoly, the dominance, but then things got bad. Age of Umbra viewership began to fall off really precipitously. The show had started really big, but it quickly declined, and by the finale in week 8, that 1.5 million views had fallen to only 200,000 views. And while decline in a series like this is always to be expected, this was a substantially larger drop-off than any other campaign. Likewise, YouTubers and influencers started noticing that views were dropping on their Daggerheart-focused content fast and furiously. We're not joking, this isn't fun. Here's a comment from Professor Dungeon Master talking about how his Daggerheart videos went from 200k views to only 15k views. That is a massive drop off. And even huge creators like XP to Level 3, who are still making awesome Daggerheart content, are only pulling in a fraction of the views that their equivalent D&D videos earn. And most content creators on YouTube have now reverted back to just covering Dungeons & Dragons almost exclusively. And look, it's natural for new systems to get a ton of hype at the beginning and then fall off a bit. That's just the way new things go. But Daggerheart content has fallen off substantially in terms of views, and I really hate to say that because I have been championing Daggerheart as a system for a while now. I do believe that it's better than Dungeons & Dragons. Or do I? I recently ranked all of the RPGs I've ever played on my Patreon. You can go check it out there and find out for yourself. But yeah, I think I do. But the numbers are in. Daggerheart is substantially less popular than Dungeons & Dragons. And while that feels obvious to say, I don't think anyone expected anything different. I don't think that it was or is inevitably the case. I mean, the Daggerheart community is still really big and very active, and they're now one of the biggest RPG subreddits around. There is clearly interest in Daggerheart as a system, and I can't help but feel that if Critical Role had decided to convert their next major campaign from Dungeons & Dragons to Daggerheart, then this could have injected way more interest in the game and maybe reduced the fall off on Daggerheart YouTube content. There'd be another wave of interested people, and maybe it would reach a bit of a critical mass. And while this new campaign from Critical Role does sound crazy, and I am actually very excited for it, especially seeing Brendan Lee Mulligan in action at Critical Role, that's really neat, I am disappointed that they're not using Daggerheart, because I was hoping for something new. I think seeing Critical Role use a new system in their main main campaign with those types of characters that they like to make in their main campaign would have been really refreshing. And personally, I would have preferred Daggerheart as their campaign of choice, but maybe they have noticed this drop off for themselves, and so they have decided to take the safe option and just go ahead with D&D. But I mean, that sucks, right? Daggerheart was meant to be the chosen one, the game that would rescue the RPG market from the dominance of Dungeons and Dragons and Hasbro. And look, I love Dungeons and Dragons, but boy was it exciting to think that the new Critical Role campaign could be in a different system and therefore expose millions of people to an RPG that isn't D&D. Then I could tell my grandma that no, I'm not playing Dungeons and Dragons every Saturday night and see her eyes finally light up with joy before I snuff them out again by saying, I'm playing Daggerheart, a different RPG. It would be cool for Dungeons and Dragons to not dominate the market so much, and Critical Role playing Daggerheart would have helped push that agenda, and frankly, I feel like the future of Daggerheart has now suddenly been put into question in a way that it wouldn't have been if Campaign 4 was played in that system. Because Critical Role's decision to not use their very own heroic fantasy RPG in their flagship Let's Play campaign implicitly sends the message to everyone, including potential customers or D&D only players or people interested in heroic fantasy RPGs, that not even Critical Role have the confidence in their very own system. I've seen thousands of comments to that effect now, with one person aptly describing Daggerheart as the game that's almost good enough to play. And yeah, using your main competitor as your system of choice in your own show does make it seem like that system might just be better. And Critical Role obviously don't believe that. I think they're really big fans of Daggerheart. They're sincere fans, obviously. But speaking as someone who is also a fan of Daggerheart and has championed the system and does think that it's better than D&D, maybe you have to check out the Patreon, I am disappointed. But that said, I'm reminded of the George R.R. Martin controversy. At the end of the day, Matt Mercer doesn't owe me or anyone else shit. In fact, I actually owe him $50. Let me tell you, the man can pick out a winner at a Mississippi dogfight. But is Daggerheart even better than Dungeons and Dragons? Well, check out my Patreon link below, because this month I released my biggest video ever where I ranked every single tabletop RPG game that I have ever played in my 20 years of playing TTRPGs. And Daggerheart and D&D actually do go up head to head in that video, and it's really exciting and cool. My videos on YouTube often get demonetized, something about the swear words, I guess, maybe the dog fighting, and I think I even get delisted sometimes, so I really rely on viewer support to help me keep covering RPG and wargaming news, so check out my Patreon. And you can even subscribe to the channel as well if you want to see more videos. And a massive thanks to my patrons, especially CryptoKev, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye-bye! Oh, and don't forget to try Rocket Money today for free at www.rocketmoney.com/dungeons.